Hello, everybody, and welcome to the August 8th, 2018 edition of the Ephrom Josine Show. I am your host, Ephrom Josine. So, there's been a lot that's happened recently. I'm going to go through just some of it today. Recently, Donald Trump at a rally was talking about shutting down the government before the midterms to fund his border wall. And it's actually really funny when you think about it. Because one of the things that Republicans have always credited Reagan for is being the reason the Berlin Wall fell. Now, of course, it doesn't make any sense because Reagan wasn't in Berlin at the time. He just sort of gave a pretty speech. However, the Berlin Wall, if you actually look at USSR documents, was supposedly, according to the government, created to keep fascists out of East Berlin, who were going there to destroy communism. It later turned out that wasn't the goal. Now Donald Trump apparently liked that and is creating his own wall. And that's the thing all the Republicans don't seem to get. I remember I saw, I forget his last name, it was Charlie something. He went on PragerU. He did that Build the Wall video. And he said, well, when you build a wall to keep people in, it's a prison. That's what it's gonna be used for, moron. That's the whole goal of things like this. But anyway, but Donald Trump, by the way, didn't seem to realize that shutting down the government was extremely unpopular last time. And most people blamed Republicans for it. Because two voices told him it was a good idea. And those two voices, according to him, mind you, were Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity. If you don't know, by the way, neither of those people get particularly any views these days. I mean, Rush Limbaugh was kicked off of his main radio station a while ago. Most people don't know that. And since then, he's like on fourth tier radio. He got like no advertisers. Advertisers literally started putting in no rush clauses when they advertised the radio stations. And they were literally putting PSAs in airtime. I'm not making that up. Or commercials. And Donald thinks that guy was important. And by the way, may I remind you, Donald Trump about a week ago called into Rush Limbaugh's show. And it's actually really funny to listen to. Because at one point, Donald Trump mentions these trade deals. Now, Rush Limbaugh, as much as I make fun of him, there are about 4 things he's right on. One of those 4 is free trade. He typically supports that. But Rush didn't say, actually, Mr. President, I think you're wrong on free trade. It's actually lowers prices for the consumer. It makes things much more affordable. It's actual free enterprise at work, so you as a capitalist should favor it. No, we can't do that. Because that would be going against Donald Trump. Same thing with Sean Hannity. You know, he was in favor of doing all the free trade. And if you didn't like it, you were anti-American. He's the man who literally said, back when it was Hannity and Combs, that if you were against the war in Iraq, you were anti-American. Then Donald Trump says, let's get out of some war. And Hannity's like, that's good. Then Donald Trump hasn't got out of the war, and Hannity still supports that. Because he's a partisan hack. Anyway, enough rag. Oh, one more thing, though. One more thing. I was going to move on to the next story. I forgot it. I almost forgot this. In 2007, I think it was 2007, it may have been before then, Mike Pence went on the floor of the House of Representatives and said he was implementing the values of Rush Limbaugh. And he called into Rush after the VP debate. But okay, here's a scandal that goes against a Democrat. The Daily Caller, which if you do not know is essentially the worst website in America, quoted Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who Republicans have found such great dirt on as she occasionally looks ugly if you pause her. They found another thing they can sort of misrepresent. Ocasio-Cortez says upper middle class doesn't exist anymore in America. Now, clearly, she's referring to the lack of wealth mobility that makes it so poor people stay poor and usually get poorer, and rich people stay rich and usually get richer. But, you know, it's similar to the 2 jobs claim. where a lot of people didn't really understand what she meant because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for all of her issues, talks into this kind of vague way. I'd recommend she worked on that and be more direct. What she was clearly trying to say is unemployment is low because people are working low-wage jobs. That's why some people need two jobs, because their jobs are low wage. This is another one. She's explaining in a very simple soundbite way, which you have to do on mainstream media, for the record. You know, Jimmy Dore talked about this with the Kyle Kalinske interview recently. Or when Kyle was on Fox, that Kyle had essentially mastered, here's how you talk in like 2 minutes, 30 seconds they give you in about 15-second chunks. And you know what? Here's some news that people will hope will make Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wrong, by the way. I couldn't find a better place to fit this, sorry. This is from People for Bernie. Which one is that? Missouri becomes the first state in American history to repeal anti-worker right-to-work laws. I'm in favor of that, as we all know. Right-to-work laws typically just mean you have a right to work for less. That's been said over and over again. Union busting only helps the corporations, it never helps the workers, etc., etc. That's been said a million times before. I can't say it any better than it just doesn't work. You know, and if you look at this, a lot of people admit that. You know, if you look at their language, it's unions suck business owners dry. Well, okay, how much are those business owners worth and how much are the workers being paid? That's a very important thing they never want to tell you about. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez also has recently said that, I think the direct quote is, soccer moms with 2 vans don't exist anymore. Which, again, is a statement about wealth mobility that nobody understood was a metaphor. That's the thing with these people. They just do not understand what metaphors are. They do not understand any of that. They take everything at the most mockable approach. They actively strawman their opponents. They show the worst clips possible. They never steelman their opponent, which is you give the strongest argument possible. They never show a clip of, like, Noam Chomsky or someone who's typically considered an intellectual and just debate them. They always find some random college student, because that's their goal. That's how they trick you into supporting policies that are worse for you. That's been their game for years. Anyway, that's it. I'm Ephrom, and good night.